Hello, friends, and welcome to Mother and Refuge of the End Times. I'm Debbie Bird Smith, and I'm so grateful and excited to have returning to us today Dr. Michael Hesemann. Dr. Hesemann has been with us before, and we have really enjoyed the talks. I know that I've really enjoyed our talks, and he is an author and a scholar and a historian. And he has written many books, and he's particularly, if you've seen Dr. Hessman before, we've talked about the um, the visions in Severnich. I hope I'm pronouncing that. That's as close to it as I could get. Um, and so we've had several talks about that, which has been uh, really interesting and exciting. But we have other things that we're going to talk about today. So welcome, Dr. Hessman. It's so good to see you again.
Thank you very much, and my pleasure and honor to be on your show again.
Well, we're thrilled to have you on Mother and Refuge. Okay. Well, this kind of leads us then to this apparition that was what you've just written about in Heroldsbach, and which has been over for quite some time now.
1949 to 1952, yeah.
Yeah, and it's not very well known.
No.
So if you could tell us more about this apparition that we've been left out of.
My great pleasure. By the way, there's a beautiful book written by an American about the Heroldsbach apparitions called Queen of Roses. So if you Google it, I forgot the name of the author, but it's a very good book, Queen of Roses. And maybe if you check in your computer, you'll find it. And in 1949, and on October 9, 1949, four young girls, 10 and 11 years old, were just going into the nature to collect leaves for the art lessons in school, where, in this time you collect autumn leaves and you make all kind of beautiful collages and pieces of art with them. And this was the purpose too. The teacher told them, collect beautiful, colorful leaves, and we need it for the art class in our school. And they collected leaves, they were playing, they were talking, they were praying the Rosary. We are talking about 1949, when young girls on the countryside were very pious and prayed the Rosary every day. And suddenly one of them saw three letters, IHS, which is, of course, the holy name of Jesus, in green in front of a forest. And then it disappeared, and suddenly a little bit higher, a lady in white appeared with a black rosary. And they were completely shocked. They observed it. They didn't hear any message. They, at the end, ran away because they started to be afraid of it, but came back to see it is still there. And in the following days, they always came back, and always Our Lady appeared. Then 5th, 6th, 7 children came. 2 boys saw it too one time. Others saw it. And of course, in a village, rumors go around. Many people come and want to see what happened and saw what happened. The local parish priest, to which they told what happened to them, said, well, use some holy water and sprinkle it in the direction of the apparition and see if she's still there. And she was still there. And first messages came, pray a lot, there's the danger of a war. Well, we are talking about 1949, the Cold War. 1 year later, the Korean War broke out. And it was a call for prayer, for conversion, already in this early phase. And then she said, I will come the last time for this phase of the apparitions. I will come back, but I will come the last time on October the 31st, which happened. And for 5 weeks, nothing happened. And then came the feast of the Immaculate Conception, December 8, and many people obviously had the inspiration to come there because they had the feeling something might happen, Our Lady might return. And indeed, on this day, not only Our Lady returned, but for 2 times, 10,000 people saw the miracle of the sun like in Fatima. And this is a fact. Everybody saw it, even the police who was there, because if 10,000 people come, you need some people to make sure, some policemen to make sure that everything stays in order. So the country police, we have to report, confirm it too. People even in the neighboring villages saw the miracle of the sun. And you can't deny it. It is a fact, like it was a fact in Fatima. Here we have the problem. You can't say Fatima is true and Heroldsbach is not true, because the same miracle of the sun happened in both places. And even in Heroldsbach, it also was a very rainy day, and suddenly the ground was dry, and everybody felt the warmth. And in the beginning, the sun rotated, and then it came closer and closer in 3 steps, and people were falling on the knees and believing at the end of the world, like in Fatima, just like in Fatima. So this was the first type of confirmation. And then Christmas, again, many people came, and suddenly Our Lady appeared, and the children had visions of the nativity of our Lord. And very beautiful visions, and a new phase of the apparitions began, which continued in the coming year. And first of all, but they had visions of the life of Christ, later of the Passion of Christ. But also in January, Our Lady came close, 1 meter close, and allowed the children to touch her. And she nearly stepped on the ground. There was a cloud underneath her feet, but she nearly stepped on the floor. But the children were allowed to touch her and were feeling it. They invited other children and also adults to touch her too, and some people felt it. And in one case, she asked the children asked Our Lady to bless a rosary, and she took the rosary in her hands, and everybody who was there saw a rosary hovering out of the hands of the children, hovering a meter above, and then slowly going down again into the hands of the children. They didn't see Our Lady, but they saw the rosary lifting up and going down. And we have then in February the 2nd, we had the miracle of light, when light came up from the earth into heaven, and this was seen by 70,000 people. 70,000 people. It was even filmed by one person who, this was after the war, Germany was destroyed and poor, but one person had a film camera, and he filmed it, and they even had it on film. And in another instance, in November 1950, in the night between 31st of October and the 1st of November, just after midnight, and it was the day when Pius XII declared the dogma of the assumption of Our Lady with body and soul into heaven. And in this night, 300 people who were on a night vigil, just, standing there and praying the rosary, suddenly she appeared. Our Lady appeared, and everybody saw her, and then she was slowly lifting up into heaven. So 300 pilgrims from just everywhere. So we have so many supernatural manifestations over these altogether 3 years of apparitions in Heroldsbach, and so many beautiful messages, visions of the Holy Trinity, visions of Christ, visions of even of the Old Testament. Sometimes children were asked by Our Lady to crawl on knees, to make a procession, but on their knees. And after this kneeling and walking on the knees, the knees were bloody and were just bloody flesh. I mean, if you have naked knees, and girls, had skirts, of course, at that time, and if you have bloody knees, and the doctor saw them and said, well, it will take a couple of weeks. Possibly there will be even inflammations because of the dirt. And on the next morning, the knees were completely healed. And this happened not one time, but at least 30 times.
Shades of Garabandal, huh?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Heroldsbach was the mixture of Fatima and Garabandal on German soil. And so many things which happened in Garabandal. Of course, in 1950, the Archiepiscopal Commission to investigate the events said, well, it is so different from Lourdes and Fatima, but it can't be true. But today we have a much wider perspective, and we can say, well, but it's like in Kibihu, it's like in Garabandal. And so from this perspective of today, we say, well, there's no contradiction. Just not every Marian apparition has to be like Lourdes. Not every Marian apparitions have to be like Fatima. So we know that Our Lady has a wide spectrum of manifestations, and the events in Heroldsbach, there's something like a mystery play to teach the catechism. And now comes history into play. This was after Hitler. It was 4 years after the end of World War II. For 12 years, Hitler, who really was a demonic person, he was possessed by the devil. Pius XII was confirmed. He performed a remote exorcism on Adolf Hitler. It was a diabolical person and a diabolical ideology, National Socialism, which killed the chosen people of God, which planned to destroy the Catholic Church after the war. And Hitler tried everything to destroy Catholic traditions, like pilgrimages, like processions, and so on. And we prevented to teach the Catholic doctrine, the Catholic catechism. Everything had to become indoctrinated by his ideology. So the Germans, with Heroldsbach, were taught Catholic doctrine again in a kind of mystery play for everybody to understand and to witness. And sometimes the very same vision repeated 2, 3, 4, 5 times on 2, 3, 4, 5 different days. Why? Because it was not done for the children. It was done for the pilgrims to experience it and to learn what happened and to learn what it means for our faith. And there had so many people going to confession and so many conversions. People, soldiers who came from the war, who fought against Russia, who were possibly even participating in the war crimes, whatever. They came to Heroldsbach starting to cry and confess everything they did and started a new life as Christians. So it was such a loss for Catholic Germany that Heroldsbach was not only ignored, but even forbidden. Pilgrimage was officially forbidden by the bishop just because they said, look, the Protestants are making fun out of us, and we can't listen to little children to teach us theology, and this is too supernatural and whatever. And they didn't like it, and that's why they tried everything to destroy it. And Rome at that time, without doing an independent investigation, said, why? We have to trust the bishop. The bishop came to this conclusion, so we confirmed the conclusion of the bishop. Big mistake, big mistake. Even Father Pio and Carlo Acutis confirmed that these were authentic apparitions. One time, a German pilgrim group went to Padre Pio, and he said, you are from Germany? You're from Bavaria? What are you doing here in the south of Italy? Our Lady of the Roses, the Queen of the Roses, appears in Heroldsbach, and you come here? Go there. She will listen to your prayers. Mm-hmm. That's what Padre Pio said. He sometimes was a little bit rude. What are you doing here? Go home. And Carlo Acutis, in his book, in his planned exhibition, which now turned into a book on marine apparitions, he deliberately included Heroldsbach because he had the feeling that this is authentic. When the saints appeared, they had so many apparitions of saints, of hundreds of saints, and many of them, it took a long time to identify them. We had priests from other countries, from Switzerland, from France, who started to talk when the children had an apparition of a saint, to talk to the children and to the saint in his or her own language, what means in French, in Old Greek, in Latin, in Aramaic, in languages children in a village school for sure didn't learn. And they replied in German, but exactly to the question of the priest. And sometimes the saints were asked for biography, and we are dealing with martyrs from the 3rd century in numbers which you can't even imagine. And after careful research, it came out that this was true, and that this is what really happened to them and stood in the acts. I mean, believe me, in the German villages, the classes in Catholic religion were not so good that you learn the life of all the saints and all the murderers in the age of 10 or 11 or 12. So amazing. And one more example, just one time in 2005, a bishop from Lebanon came and visited one of the surviving seer children of Heroldsbach and said, "Did you ever see any saint from Lebanon?" And she said, without thinking a lot, "Yes, there was one who looked like you." And he said, "Looks like me." And it was a Lebanese Maronite bishop with a long beard and whatever. And he said, "Well, I'll show you 5 pictures and you tell me who it is." And he took 5 pictures of saints or persons from the Lebanon. Some of them were not even saints, to test her. She saw a picture of Saint Chabel.
Ah.
Yeah, this was the one. Immediately, she recognized Chabel was there, long before his beatification.
Wow.
But, I mean, who cares? Beatification is a confirmation of something which is already for sure in heaven. And it sometimes takes us time to realize what heaven knows for a long time. And when
yes, an extraordinary saint, whether we know it or not,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Pope Benedict is a teacher of the church, even if the church doesn't know about it yet.
Exactly. Well, I'm so glad that you have written this book and you've brought this attention back.
I had to, because the children are dying.
Yeah.
I mean, now.
Are there any survivors?
86 years. One of the most wonderful persons I met in my life was one of his seer children of Heroldsbach, and she passed away in 2019. And thanks God, 3 are still alive, and I interviewed them in great details, and they read my book, and I gave them permission to change whatever they want to change. And at the end, they were very happy with the book, and so we said, okay, now the book can be printed. But I mean, we are. It sounds very brutal what I say now, but we are chasing the undertaker. We have to document what happened there as long as the witnesses are still alive.
Yes.
That's important. Otherwise, there's always the danger that some kind of rumors mix in, or another author which are used as a source misunderstood something or whatever. We had cases like this which were clarified in my meetings and conversations with the surviving 3 seer children. And so I'm very happy now when we celebrate the 75th anniversary of the first apparition in Heroldsbach in October 9 of this year. But the book will come out right now at the latest possible date, because when we celebrate the 80th anniversary, I mean, 80 and the children were 10 and 11, you can imagine they would be 1991. And who knows who will still be with us in this time and in this age. And the adult witnesses, of course. Most of them are already all done, and so, all gone. So, another reason why I did the book now is what Pope Francis in 2020 opened the archives for the pontificate of Pius XII.
Mm-hmm.
And this happened, Heroldsbach happened, of course, in the pontificate of Pius XII, who, by the way, died on October 9, on the 9th anniversary of the first apparition. Very, very interesting coincidence.
Yeah.
And he had an apparition of the miracle of the sun, like in Fatima, but also like in Heroldsbach, in the Vatican Gardens, on the same day when it happened, when Our Lady appeared in Heroldsbach. So, a very interesting thing. But what I wanted to say is that we have to document it now as long as we have the witnesses.
Yes.
And I was in the archives. I was one of the historians to get the first permissions to work on the files of Pius XII in the Vatican archives, the Apostolic Archive, which is the former secret archive. Again, the Curia reform by Pope Francis mainly is renaming everything. And I went also to the archives of the Congregation for the Doctrine of Faith and found hundreds of pages, web files on Heroldsbach. And so now we know what Bamberg, the archdiocese to which Heroldsbach belongs, communicated to the Vatican, why the Vatican confirmed the negative judgment, and what kind of methods were used to discredit the apparitions of Heroldsbach. And I have to say that, unfortunately, there was a deliberate attempt to manipulate the Congregation for the Doctrine of Faith with disinformation, with fake news on Heroldsbach, because for no price they wanted this to become a German Fatima, because they believed that something like a German Fatima could cause great damage to the ecumenical dialogue with the Protestants.
Mm-hmm.
And so, thanks God, now we have the whole facts on the table.
Yes.
And that's why I wrote the book. After, as I said, after in 2020, I started to search for the documents, and of course, thanks to the pandemic, some things were delayed, and I eventually had the files in 2022 copied by the archivist of the Congregation of Faith, the Custody of Faith today, but still in time to publish the book on the 75th anniversary in the presence of 3 of the originally 9 seers of Heroldsbach.
Incredible. Yes. And thank you so much for doing that and preserving these memories of these visionaries, because when it's gone, it's gone. When it's lost, it's not documented. And of course, we know that there have probably been many times when something has happened and it hasn't been documented, or it hasn't been really fully vetted, that that we've lost. And so we, of course, want to keep all these precious moments, these precious messages and memories for future generations. And this is the thing, is that Our Lady seems to love to come to the young people, to children, and
because they're pure, they're innocent.
pure and innocent, yes, and they just take it in. They don't question it. They don't, and they're fearless, and they're fearless. They don't see an apparition and run away screaming. They're fearless. And so this is a beautiful testament to the way God, communicates with all of us.
It was so moving to see an 85-year-old lady and ask her about her vision of Christ on the cross. And she starts in front of you to cry, because when these images inside of her return, it moved her so deeply. The children really, when it happened, they were crying to see Christ suffering on the cross. all the blood coming from his hands, from his wounds, from everything, from everywhere. And still you could experience how they remember and relive this experience. And this was deeply moving. And so I'm very, very grateful that I did it when these three were still alive. And of the fourth, thanks God, the daughter is a school teacher and learned a lot from her mother, asked her many questions. And of course, I remember our conversations before she died in 2019. So the book was literally written in the last minute to document such a beautiful divine manifestation. I think this is what it was. But heaven revealed itself, and heaven came down to earth and made itself visible for the children to communicate the beauty of heaven to the faithful, to the pilgrims, to those who came from all over the country to pray.
Wonderful. Well, I thank you so much for another extraordinarily informative and enlightening visit, because whenever we talk, and we've talked about this, off camera too, is we could just talk about these things for days and days, because they're so rich in history, in a glimpse into the heavenly, the glimpse into what awaits us in heaven, and what how close our Blessed Mother is to us all the time.
When you come to Germany, we can go to Heroldsbach, and we can also make a program in Heroldsbach, at least with one of the surviving Seer children. And you can film the location, you can interview the priest who are, it was now accepted as a sanctuary and pilgrimage place in the Archdiocese of Bamberg. You can interview the priests who are hearing confessions there, and you have 24 hours of Eucharistic adoration. I can show you everything, so you can make a beautiful report on both on Heroldsbach and of course on Sievernich, on the ongoing apparitions of our Lord and before of Our Lady. So come over, bring a good camera, and I can translate everything for you, and we can document some very, very beautiful manifestations of heaven on earth.
Ron, did you hear that? Bring a good camera. Yes, it's an incredible opportunity that you've offered me, and I really look forward to meeting with Manuela Strock, and oh my goodness,
She's expecting you.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
I can translate. You can interview her.
Good. All right. Well, we're clearly, we want to have you back, because we have so much more to talk about, and so much more to explore with these amazing apparitions. And
always my pleasure. Always my pleasure.
Very, very, very much a pleasure for us to have you on. So, all of you, this was recorded. The time difference and all kinds of things kind of required us to do this as a recording and not a live. But we still want to hear your comments. We still want to hear your questions. Dr. Hesemann is available to us, and we can ask him these questions and get some answers for you. And maybe, just address some of these questions in another webcast with him, because these, particularly these prolific apparitions that were happened and we didn't even know about, we have so much to learn from them.
What about this? You invite your audience to send questions, and you read them to me. I answer them.
There we go.
Yeah, you can
we'll have a Q&A. Yeah,
sure, absolutely. Great. We make a Q&A.
Great. Okay. Sure. In fact, let's plan this when we get off, and so all of your questions, please send them in, your comments and your questions, and we can have Dr. Hesemann answer whatever this may have piqued in your mind about what about this or what about that, and whether it's about the document that we spoke about earlier, or the apparitions. Because remember, and there are other videos. There's another video on this that we've done on the apparitions at Stevenage with uh, that we have what are, I don't know, a couple, do we have a couple of videos on that? I don't know now how many times that we've met, but he's becoming a regular, and we really appreciate that. We like that very much. And so yeah, let's do that. Let's plan that. And so send us your questions, send us your inquiries, send us your comments, and because we want to talk about them and hear about your particularly, questions about the documents and different things that have come up. So I thank you again very, very much, Dr. Hesemann, and we look forward to seeing you the next time. But yes, but for now, we will say uh, goodbye and God bless. Thank you all for supporting us. Thank you for supporting Mother and Refuge and all of our team. We appreciate it so much that we can bring you these very informative and enlightening. I think it's very enlightening for me when you started talking about the oldest visionary who was seeing this vision. I got it, just hearing about it made me very emotional. That someone would see that, because I'm sure it was quite moving for her. And so we're fortunate to have the internet and the ability to do this. So thank you very much. And we will see you next time on Mother and Refuge of the End Times. Thank you.
Thank you.